Good morning, Tony. Nice to see you again.
Hi, Matt. It's great that we see each other live again.
Yeah.
That's the fun part of this watch fair.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Get to see old friends, make new friends, and see a ton of great watches. Speaking of which, one of the greatest watches here at this fair is the Lange 1, which is a modern classic. And I've wanted to ask you, you've worked at Lange now for 18 years?
18 years now.
18 years. What does it feel like to be part of a thing that has such a modern classic in its repertoire?
Two sides. First side is great because you feel proud that you're part of a brand which was able to what people call an icon. It can also make things more difficult because it puts pressure. You have to be very careful if you want to play or develop with these watches like a Lange 1. You have to be very careful. So that's the challenge, but I like the challenge. It's good.
So over the years, Lange & Söhne has played with the Lange 1 a bit, which, I mean, in my personal estimation, doesn't really need to be played with. But I understand that everyone has different tastes, and sometimes you need to offer different things to different people. So we have the little Lange 1, and we also have the Grand Lange 1, which made its first appearance in 2003, but was entirely revamped in 2012. This year, in 2022, we have a relaunch of the Grand Lange 1, and it looks entirely different to me. What have you done to it?
We had a desire, I think, so to create maybe a bigger differentiation between the two. Of course, not touching design identity of a Lange 1, of the Grand Lange 1. So we went carefully there, and we said to ourselves, okay, we're going to do something, but we're not going to touch the movement. Oops. It's always fun. I like that briefing. Say, guys, I would like to make the watch thinner. And they all like, okay. And the movement designer says, oh, okay, well, we'll see. And they say, no, not your turn. Only design. Like, oh, design. Yeah, how to do that? And then, bezel, slightly thinner. A little bit the ouverture, what we call the size of the dial, you see. Right. Slightly bigger. I'm talking about tenths of a millimeter here. No? And then we say, how can we make flatter, nearer to the movement? Can we go? Yeah, with Lange 1 you have the possibility. It's not from the center to the edge. So we can play a little bit with that. And we really, the hour markers, which are already quite thin, they are now half of the thickness. Right. And which is quite tricky because these hour markers are fixed to the dial with two little feet, two holes, and they press it in. But if you make it half as thick, the risk of bending the high polished surface, and then it looks very strange. If you then you get very strange reflections. And we tried another surface of the main surface, another treatment like grained, rougher. Many people say modern. So these are the things we worked on. We are known for very clear dials. On the regular Lange 1, you have the sub-dials, and the edge, where it goes from the main dial to the sub-dial, is always 90 degrees. Very sharp. And we use the half of the thickness of the protecting coat as the rest of the industry to keep it sharp. Here we did a chamfering around 45 degrees to give the impression of thin. And I think the watch is really, really improved, different, elegant, but it's still very much a Lange 1.
Yeah, I imagine. The other thing I noticed is we have rose gold and white gold, and we have gray dials on both. And in my recollection, normally you have different colored dials for different metals of the same family. Isn't that true? So is this a first to have gray dials in both metals?
No, we used to have a Lange 1 in pink gold with a gray dial. Okay. In the past. Yeah. But we built it not anymore since long. So we said, oh, maybe it's good to try that again. And we have the pile of all the prototypes are a lot of different colors, but we try also to keep our strict color combination. So gray in white never means platinum, but it is white gold combination. Okay. Now, if we would have made a platinum version, then it would have the rhodium plate, the rhodium plated dial. Yeah. So that's again slightly different. In
the Lange 1, the regular classic size, you get 72 hours of power reserve with double barrels, 2 spring barrels, which is really important, the Doppelfederhaus. But in the Grand Lange 1, since 2012, we only have 1 spring barrel. How did you do that? You have the same amount of power reserve.
Actually, we learned this from making the Saxonia thin.
Oh.
Because we were working on a Saxonia thin and say, okay guys, let's extend the power reserve. It's important that such a dress watch, it goes over the weekend. So 72 hours and no twin barrels. So I said, okay guys, you managed with the Saxonia thin. So if we're going to create a Grand Lange 1, I do not want to copy the original Lange 1 with the Doppelfeder house, but just bigger. That's not so interesting for a collector. Let's try to do different. Would be the other way would be maybe way easier. We pump up the original Lange 1 movement and then you have a bigger watch, but that's so easy. But we never find the easiest way. We don't like the easiest way. Advantage of not always taking the easiest way is that you learn. You know, we at the moment work at 16 movement projects at the same time. There's such an amount of synergy between these projects, between the movement designers and the design team. That's so cool. So we have some mishaps, really. It always has a use. Even the mishaps we've learned to put in, and that's important. So we do not have a lack of creativity, and we have a pile of ideas for the coming years. And it's cool that you can jump over. So this is a perfect, coming back to Saxonia thin. Oh, we can do 72 hours, 1 barrel, cool. Actually, I remember for the 2012 version, there is the famous Doppelfeder house in the original Lange 1. That is a design theme, and it was out of the question by at that time, Grand Lange 1. We were of course not able to print the same text Doppelfeder house because there was not a Doppelfeder house twin barrel inside. So what to do then? And we looked for a word text which has the same length as a Doppelfeder house. So that's why it's marked Gangreserve 72 Stunden. It's, oh wow, that was very German with a stupid Dutch accent, but that's between us. But it means power reserve 72 hours. And some people say, hey, but why you write that down in German? Yeah, that's a bit of a tradition. At the Lange 1, we have stuff like that in German.
Well, thanks so much for talking to me today about the Grand Lange 1. It's a beautiful watch. I'm really pleased to present it here with you at this fair.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.